Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's Radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, Grade 11 Workplace Math, and I am Bronwyn Slate. If you'd like to participate live today, you're welcome to call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 or 737-4017. You can listen on the radio at 91.9 FM or on the television at Bell Express View Channel 972. You can also join on the Zoom link, which is always available for me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Hello, is that better? Yeah, okay, sorry, we're just having some technical difficulties there. All right, let's keep going. Okay, so our classes are scheduled Monday through Thursday from 9 till 10 in the morning, and we are now in week 3 of our 9-week course. So a reminder of what work to submit for marking. The support questions, the ones marked with the pencil icon, are not for marking. They are just practice problems. So you decide which ones and how many to do. If you understand a concept, feel free to skip those questions. If you need more practice, please ask for more practice, and I'm happy to provide that for you. The key questions, the ones marked with the key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So please do all of those questions. Make sure that you're showing all of your work, your steps, and your thinking. This way I can give you credit for all of your understanding. And also if you're struggling with something, then I have more information and I can actually help you. There are 3 methods to submit your work for marking. The first is to scan and send your work in electronically. So if you have a smartphone, you can scan your work in either the iPhone Notes app or the Android Google Drive app. And then you can send it by email to studentwork@nnec.on.ca and CC it to bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. Or you can send it to me through Facebook Messenger at bslatewahsa. The second method is to drop your work off in Sioux Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our location, 74 Front Street. We are the bright red building next to the post office, and we have a small white mailbox next to our side door, so you can just put it in there. The third method is to hand your work into your DEC. Your DEC can then either send it through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, my Facebook and my YouTube are both under the name bslatewahsa. So you can friend me on Facebook or subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then you'll get notifications every time that I upload a new video. All of our classes are recorded, and I post them on YouTube shortly after airing. And then there's also short videos that explain common errors or confusing concepts on my channel that I've done. So that's a great place to access if you're struggling with something, to go there and see if you can figure out maybe there's something there that can help you. Math is a really visual subject, so if you are able to, connecting with the videos is going to set you up for the most success. So either joining live through the Zoom link or watching the YouTube videos are really going to make the most sense. If you don't have access to reliable internet, then let me know and I can send you a recording of the videos, and that will hopefully help with that. If you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. My email address is bronwyn.slate, which is spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. You connect with me through Facebook at bslatewahsa. You can call me at the office at 807-737-1488 or toll free 1-800-667-3703. My office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 till 4, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. All right, so let's dive into today's lesson. We are on day 8, week 3, and we are looking at lesson 6, buying decisions. So our learning goals for today are that at the end of this lesson, you will understand the best buy in a variety of situations. You'll understand why companies offer purchasing incentives and the different kinds that are common, and that you'll be able to convert Canadian dollars to US dollars and from US dollars to Canadian dollars. You know that you've met the learning goals because 1, at the end of the lesson, you can calculate unit prices and decide upon the best buy. 2, you can explain the benefits of various purchasing incentive programs. And 3, you can actually calculate Canada dollars to US dollars conversions. Great. So let's first activate our brain with some mental math. I am not a believer in the mad math minutes. They're just anxiety provoking and don't actually teach anybody skills. Either you memorize them and you know them, or you don't memorize them and you don't know them, but they don't actually help you figure them out. So instead, we work on learning arithmetic through strategy-based ideas that we can use in different situations. Our question today is 35 plus 29, and we're going to use the method of compensation. And so this is where we're going to take from one and give it to the other. So we're compensating the change from one to the other. So whenever I see a number with 9 in the ones, I always want to change that into a 10 because that's going to be more friendly. So I want to add 1 to 29 to make that 30 because that's going to be more friendly for me to add to my other number. So if I add 1 to one of them, I'm going to subtract 1 from the other. So 35 take away 1 is 34. So 34 plus 30 equals 64. So 35 plus 29 also equals 64. So that's just how I do it in my head, is I just move 1 from 35 to 29 to make it 30, and then I say 34 plus 30 equals 64. And I do this all the time. This is something that I do a ton. And that's compensation. You can do it with other things, not just with 9, but 9 is the one that I do it most commonly with. Okay, so mine's on. Let's see what prior learning we need to know. So for this lesson, we need some capacity and mass conversions. So we just need to be comfortable with how to convert within units. So we're not converting from one unit to another unit, but within units. So for capacity, so we're talking about the volume of liquids and solids. So mostly with liquids, what we're talking about. And in Canada, we use the metric system. So this is when we're talking about like changing something from milliliters to liters. So how sorry, I just wanted to get the laser pointer. So milliliters are 1,000 times smaller than liters. So if we're in milliliters and we want to go to liters, we times it by 1,000. If we're in liters and we want to go to milliliters, we're going to divide it by 1,000. And that's how we go. These arrows that I found on this graphic are backwards, so that is not helpful. So the same with, we don't really use kiloliters or megaliters too much. Those are bigger units than we generally use when we're shopping in the store. But the same idea is that in order to get bigger, we times. In order to get smaller, we divide. Then we can do the same thing within mass when we're talking about grams and kilograms. So grams, if we want to go from grams to kilograms, we are going to divide to figure out how many grams are in kilograms. And if we want to go from kilograms to grams, we multiply. They're not backwards. I was just thinking about the backwards. We don't talk about tons or milligrams too much, but milligrams we might talk about in terms of medication, and tons in terms of bigger weights. So the same idea in terms of you multiply to get if we're talking about a smaller amount, and we divide if we're getting to a bigger amount. So that's just something to remember as we go forward. Okay, so what are our new concepts today? So as always, when will you use this in real life? So we're strengthening our ability to think critically, which is something that we constantly use. So no matter what the situation in this course, we're always learning how to think critically and how to judge information and use that information to make decisions or inform us. So unit prices is where we're going to start. And this is on page 3 of your IL book, because we're in unit 2 now, just a reminder. This is why it's a lower number. It's page 3 of your second booklet. So a unit price is the total price for a package divided by the number of units or items in the package. So it's a total price divided by the amount that you have. So for example, dollar per 1 liter, or dollars per 1 egg, dollars per 1 kilogram, dollars per 100 grams are all ways. Often we don't put the one, we just say dollars per liter, dollars per egg, dollars per kilogram. Usually that just means that we're talking about one of that unit, but we also can do dollars per 100 grams. But generally with unit price, we're saying dollars per something. The dollars is what we're dividing into how many we have of the things. So for example, a 2-liter glass bottle of mayonnaise sells for $5.49. A 500 milliliter squeezable plastic bottle of the same brand of mayonnaise costs $2.39. So calculate the unit price per liter for each bottle. How do we figure out which one is the deal? We're assuming that we want to spend less money for the same amount of stuff. That's the better buy, so that we're saving money. So how we figure this out is to calculate per liter for each bottle. So we're looking for dollars per liter. So that means that we're going to do our dollars. So we're going to do, for the glass bottle, we're going to do $5.49 divided by 2 liters. And that's how we always do it, is that we do our dollars on the top divided by the amount that we have on the bottom. So if we are going to do this, getting our calculator, so $5.49 divided by 2 is equal to $2.75 per liter. So the glass bottle is $2.75 per liter. So with the plastic bottle, the same idea is that we want to figure out per liters. Now, the tricky thing with this is that we have $2.39 per 500 milliliters, and we want to change that into liters. So 500 milliliters is half of a liter. So in order to figure out how many liters this is, we need to convert it to liters and not just milliliters. So that means that we're going to figure out that there are 1,000 milliliters per 1 liter, and we times this by that in order to convert it. So if we're doing this, we're going to use our calculator, and we're going to do $2.39 divided by 500 milliliters, and then all of that times 1,000 milliliters divided by 1 liter. And that gives us $4.78. $4.78 per liter. So we can see that now we're talking about the same amount. This is the point of finding for the best buy, is that we're talking about the same amount. So we can compare the dollars now because they both have the liters. So it is, for the glass bottle, it's $2.75 per liter, and for the plastic bottle, it's $4.78 per per liter. So we now know how much for the same amount, how much money it costs for the same amount of mayonnaise. Sorry, so which of the two containers gives you more for your money? So the glass bottle gives you more mayonnaise for your money. And this is something that's really useful to do whenever you're shopping. And that's called unit prices. Okay, so let's look at another example. So if we have two types of cheese on sale, we want to determine the unit price per 100 grams to find the best buy. So it's not always best to do per gram. Grams are pretty small, so often you do per 100 grams in order to figure out what the best buy is. And this is often also posted on pricing, not necessarily on the price tag that's on an actual item, but if you look to where there's the barcode on the label on the shelf, it often will tell you what the price is per gram, or per kilogram or per liter or whatever, and that can help you compare without having to do the math. But let's learn how to do the math. So for the so we have two sizes of cheese. We have a 400 gram block of cheese that costs $4.99, and we have a 908 gram block of cheese that costs $9.29. Sorry, forgot the decimal point. Okay, so same idea. We want to figure out how much this is per 100 grams. So we're still going to do $4 because we're talking about dollars divided by 400 grams. If we just do that, we're going to find out what it is per 1 gram. So that's going to be really small. So we're going to times it by 100 to keep it into grams. You could also think about this, that it's going to be $4.99 divided by 4, because there's 4 groups of 100 grams. But if that's not easier, don't worry about that. Just think that we want it to be, we're dividing by the total grams that we have, and then we're going to times it by 100 in order to make it out of per 100 grams. So then, using our calculator, we have $4.99 divided by 400, and then timesing it by 100 grams gives us $1.25 per 100 grams. So then for the other one, we're going to do $9.29 divided by 908 grams. And again, we're going to times it by 100 grams in order, because we want it to be per 100 grams. So we use our calculator and we do $9.29 divided by 908 grams and then times it by 100. Oops, sorry. I times the wrong thing by 100. Times it by 100. And we get $1.02. So $1.02 per 100 grams. So now to figure out the best buy, we now are talking about the same amount of stuff. We're talking about 100 grams of each of these types of cheese. And so we can see that the bigger block, we pay $1.02 per 100 grams, whereas the smaller block, the 400 gram block, we pay $1.25 per 100 gram. So it makes sense if you're cool to have that much cheese, then it makes more sense to buy the bigger block. The bigger block is the best buy. If something like cheese lasts a long time, so it makes sense it's fine to buy something like, even if you're like if you usually buy 400 grams once a week, instead you could buy the 908 grams, which is more cheese, for 2 weeks instead, and your cheese is likely to not go bad. If it's something that is going to go bad, or you don't need twice the amount, then the better buy isn't necessarily the cheaper buy. In terms of like a capitalist system, then we talk about the better buy always being the cheaper buy. But in terms of like community mindset or an environmentalist perspective, having all of this stuff isn't necessarily better. You might not need, it might be cheaper to buy 2 shirts instead of 1 shirt, but if you only need 1 shirt, then it actually makes more sense to only buy 1 shirt and spend it a little more per 1 shirt, because you're spending less money overall opposed to buying something that you don't actually need. So that's a different sort of like philosophical element, but in terms of mathematically, if you're talking about the best buy being the cheaper buy, the bigger block of cheese is the better buy. Okay, so if you want to pause the video and watch, do the support questions on page 4, questions 1 and 2. Those ones are about unit prices and best buy. Okay, so the next part of this lesson is incentives to buy. So an incentive is something that a store or a company does to motivate an individual to perform an action. So like often making a purchase, buying something, or also it could be completing a survey or signing up for a mailing list or something like that. So this is on page 5 in your IEL book, and I'm going to list a whole bunch of other. Your IEL book doesn't talk about too many incentives, but here's a bunch, just to know. So it often can be things like price reduction, so rebates or coupons for dollars or percentages off, or buy one get one types of offers. Those are all incentives. They could be loyalty programs such as punch cards or point systems, like buy 10 coffees and get the 11th free, or frequent flyer miles, or insurance discounts given based on consecutive numbers of years insured with the same company. Those are all the longer that you've been with the company, the more times you spend money with that company, they give you a deal of some sort. Free samples, so the sample yourself is the incentive. So it could be often new parents receive free samples for like diapers or baby formula or things like that are mailed out to expectant parents, and then you're like, oh, I have this, I use this, then you're likely to buy that product. Or a bonus product with a product trial. So the example that I have here is like test driving a motorcycle, and then you get a free pair of sunglasses. Or a bonus product with a purchase. So buy $100 worth of cosmetics and get a free cosmetic carrying case. Also a free upgrade with purchase. So buy a car and get these free floor mats. Trade-in programs. Bring in your infant car seat and get a discount on your toddler car seat. Options at time of purchase. So when you buy an RV, you get a choice of either a free generator or a free extended warranty. Sweepstakes or prizes. So complete our survey and be entered into our free drawing. Free information. Give us your contact information to receive a free white paper. Take our survey and we'll send you the industry-wide results. Things like that. Or promotional items. So stop by our trade show booth and we'll give you a free smartphone holder. Things like that are all incentives about trying to get them to get information that probably eventually you're going to spend money at that company. So here's one example of how we can actually calculate this, how it actually results in terms of money. So Best Buy offers 500 points for every $50 spent at their store. How many points is Best Buy offering for every $1 spent at their store? If Andre buys a high-definition Blu-ray player for $450, how many points will Best Buy give him? Okay, so there's 2 parts to this question. So first, how many points for every dollar? So this is a little bit different than unit price, is because we're doing points per dollar, not dollars per points. So we know that 500 points, but we can set it up the same way. We do 500 points per $50. If we divide that, we're going to figure out how many points per $1. So 500 divided by 50 is going to be similar to 50 divided by 5, which is 10. So 10 points per $1 is how much Best Buy offers for their loyalty program. So then, if the Blu-ray player costs $450, so that means that for every dollar they get 10, Andre gets 10 points. So that means that we do 450 times 10 points per dollar. So 450 times 10 divided by 1 is going to be 4,500 points. Is how many points Andre gets. We don't know how many points you need to buy something. That isn't saying that that 1 point is equal to $1. That's not what they're telling us. We don't know how to redeem them, but that's what we get for the point system. So then, if you want to pause the video now and do the support questions on page 5 and 6, questions 3 to 5 are the questions about incentive programs. Alright, and then the last piece that we're looking at today are understanding currencies, and this can be a bit confusing. So to start off, all countries use the same currency? And this is on page 7 of your IEL book. We're talking about currencies. So no, the term currency refers to the money used in a particular country. So not everyone uses dollars. In Canada, we use Canadian dollars. But in France, they use euros. In Mexico, they use pesos, Mexican pesos. In Japan, they use yen. So it's different depending on where you are in the world. And then countries get to decide what type of money will have legal tender. So what is going to count as money, the government gets to decide. So like for example, in 1999, France chose to replace francs, which is what they used to have as their money, with euros. So that's something that can change. It doesn't have to be the same all the time, but the government decides that. So you can go to the world currency symbols, and I will link this link in the show notes. I'll put it in the show notes, so you can go and check it out if you want to. And this lists all the currency abbreviations and symbols and codes for wherever you're traveling in the world. So we can just go in there and look quickly to see that it tells you a big long list of where the country and the currency is, what it's called. So Argentina peso, Australian dollar, Bahamas dollar, it's all Belarus ruble. We use similar language, but it's different denomination necessarily. And then there's also a code. Always there's a currency code, which is generally it's a 3-letter code. And then there's a symbol, depending on what. So a dollar symbol you don't necessarily know what kind of money that is. It could be an Australian dollar, or it could have, here we can see that it's an Argentina peso also uses the dollar symbol. So that it's just a list of all the different monies in the world, the currencies, which is a good reference if you're interested. So I'll link that in the show notes. But here are some very common ones. So the US dollar, so USD is the indicator as to what the code is, and this is the dollar symbol is a symbol. Euro is a European currency. A pound sterling, this is the symbol for pound, which is in England and Great Britain. Then continue the Indian rupee or the Russian ruble, the Swedish krona. So there's lots of different symbols. Canadian dollar, that happen, Japanese yen. So different ways to talk about money depending on where you are. And so that's just really kind of good to know if you're traveling or if you're interested. But it's sort of, we're not going to convert all of these. We're just going to focus on Canadian to US dollars. So how is the value of the Canadian dollar determined? Because we have all this different money. Are they all equal? No, they're not all equal. So it rises or falls every day because of the Bank of Canada lets it float, meaning it varies according to demand. So the more people who want to buy Canadian products, the more our dollar is worth. So we are constantly talking about exchange rates, and so exchange rate is the price of one currency compared to another currency. And you can go to this link xrates.com, and you can see here it shows you the currency of US dollars to Great Britain pounds, Canadian dollars, euros, and Australian dollars in comparison to each other. So for our purposes, we're going to compare them to Canadian dollars. So we're first going to talk about 1 Canadian dollars equals this much of another country's currency. So for example, 1 Canadian dollar is how many US dollars? So if we look at here, we see 1 Canadian dollar is equal to 0.78352 dollars. 78352. So, and then we'll just look at them. We're only going to convert to US dollars, but we can look at the other ones. So Great Britain, 1 Canadian dollar is equal to 0.6151 pounds, so 0.62 approximately. And then for Canadian, 1 Canadian dollar is worth 1 Canadian dollar. Euros 0.73 approximately, and Australian dollars 1.10. 0.73. So different. $1 Canadian is different depending on where you are in the world, how much that's going to convert to. Okay, so what does that actually mean? So we're going to focus on converting to and from Canadian dollars to US dollars, and from US dollars to Canadian dollars, but the same processes depend wherever you are in the world. You can do the same to other dollars or other currencies as well. So first, most common thing is to use a online currency converter. This is what I do all of the time. So they're really easy to just find. You can also download apps on your phone. If you're doing a lot, you can just use an online currency converter. But to understand what's actually happening is important. So many people will visit from the US and in Canada and pay with US dollars. They don't convert. They don't necessarily exchange their money. They just want to pay with their own currency. So this, again, remember, it changes daily. But so when I was looking at it last night and I wrote it down, this is what the exchange rate. So it might be slightly different depending on when you're looking at rates. And in your IEL booklet, it's going to be different because when it was printed, the exchange rate was different. So use what information you have access to. The currency factor is 1 Canadian dollar equals 0.78673 dollars of US dollars. So that means that for every $1 purchase in Canada, Americans pay just about 79 cents of US dollars of their own money. So then how do we actually calculate that? So for this, once again, I think setting up ratios really helps you to figure out what it is that you're doing when you're doing conversions. So put whatever you want on the top. So let's look at an example. So Greta is visiting Sioux Lookout from Minnesota. She buys a wagon and red apple for $186.65, tax included. We're not going to worry about tax right now. So how much US dollars does she have to pay? So how we figure this out is we say, okay, so we're looking for US dollars. So we're going to say for the currency rate, we're going to say that's 0.78673 US dollars is equal to 1 Canadian dollars. And we're trying to figure out how many, so X of US dollars, which is equal to $186.65. So then how we figure this out to actually do the math calculation. So I'm just going to simplify the numbers so that we are just looking at the numbers. So I'm not going to write the US dollars, and 0.78673 divided by 1 is just 0.78673 is equal to X divided by 186.65. So then in order to figure out what X is, we need to get X by itself, which means we're going to multiply both sides, because right now we're dividing X by this $186.65. So if we want to multiply 180x divided by $186 and 85 or 65 cents, because if we multiply it, that means that we're canceling it off, because this is just going to be, if we multiply something by $186.65 and then divide it by $186.65, it's the same amount. We're just multiplying. It's like it's multiplying and dividing by 1. But if in order to keep our equation balanced, if we're doing it to one side, we have to do the same thing on the other side, or else we're changing our information. So this is algebra, which, depending on what I haven't taught you this in this course, depending on what your experience is, you should have learned it in another course. But you can just think logically that in order to figure out how many Canadian dollars or US dollars, we're going to multiply the rate by the amount of Canadian dollars. So we're going to use our calculator to do that. So we have our price, $186.65 times our exchange rate, 0.78673, which is equal to $146.84. So $146.84 is what so Greta will have to pay. So it feels like, for Greta, it feels like it's cheaper because her US dollars are worth more than our Canadian dollars. And that's how you convert from Canadian dollars to US dollars. So you can pause the video and do on page 8 the support question number 6. So then we want to do, what about the other way? So how do we figure it out? So again, still looking at our currency rate, but now we're going to look at if one of another country's currency is equal to how many Canadian dollars. So again, looking at our exchange rate listing. So it's just refreshing because it changes constantly, so it might be a little bit different than it was a few seconds ago, but that's okay. So here we can see that 1 US dollar is equal to $1.27.633. They do it a long decimal because it's really exact. It's not really what we do in terms of using money, but so for British pounds, 1 British pound is equal to approximately $1.63. In terms of euros, 1 euro is equal to approximately $1.37, and 1 Australian dollar is equal to approximately 91 cents Canadian. And so we can do the same thing using this rate. So let's look at an example. So the same idea, many Canadians shop online at American stores, and so here the conversion factor changes daily again, and is currently about 1 US dollar is equal to 1.27089 Canadian. So that means that for every dollar purchased in America, Canadians pay about $1.27 Canadian. So again, how do we set this up? How do we actually calculate that? What does that actually mean? Set up ratios, putting what you want on the top. So this time we want Canadian dollars, so we're putting that on the top. So Ty buys a smartwatch on Amazon.com for $225.99. Again, tax included. The conversion still happens on the tax, so don't worry about that. So how much Canadian money does she spend? So again, we're going to use the conversion rate of 1.27089 Canadian dollars equals 1 US dollar. And so that equals how many Canadian dollars if the US dollars are $225.99. So we do the exact same thing that we just did. So 1.27089 divided by 1 is still 1.27089. 27089 is equal to y, they're unknown, divided by $225.99. So again, we're going to multiply both sides by $225.99 to cancel it off, so that we just have y. And if we do it on one side, we have to do it on the other side. So using our calculator, so $225, sorry that my writing is kind of crappy, and 99 cents times 1.27089 is equal to $287.21. $287.21. So even though the price says on the computer, it says that the smartwatch is going to be $225.99, Ty actually pays $287.21 Canadian. And this is always can be really frustrating when you think something's going to be one cost and then you're like, oh wait, is that in US dollars? Because then it's going to be more money actually for us. So the other piece is that remembering two exchange rates can be really difficult because it changes and then having to look them up. So what you can do is you can always use one exchange rate if you want. So you can only use, if you always want to use one Canadian dollar equals 0.78673 US dollars, you can still use that to convert from US dollars to Canadian dollars. So for example, if we're going to convert $386.13 US dollars to Canadian dollars, instead of looking up the other exchange rate, we can use one Canadian dollar is equivalent to 0.78673 US dollars. But now because we want Canadian dollars, we're going to put Canadian dollars on the top. And so we're going to end up, so now if we simplify this, we have 1 divided by 0.78673 equals Z over 386.13. So, we're still going to multiply both sides by $386.13. But now when we do that, we are timesing that by 1 over our exchange rate instead of just timesing it by our exchange rate. So it's a little bit different, which is still totally fine. You're going to get the same answer, but it's just a little bit different. So you're going to do times, so $386.13 times 1 divided by 0.78673. So that equals $490.80. So you can do either way. You can look up the second exchange rate. Sorry for my writing, it's messy. I have to work on my smartboard writing. Or you can just use the one exchange rate and change the ratio depending on what's easier for you. Okay, so now you can do the support questions on page 10. Questions 7 through 8 are the currency conversion questions. All right, so let's consolidate what we've learned today. So remember, we're on lesson 6, which is the first lesson in unit 2, and we're talking about buying decisions. So first we talked about the best buy as that being a unit price. So being able to compare prices, figuring it out, what the price is per one or per the same unit, the same amount, means that you can then figure out which one is going to be the best buy, which one's going to be cheaper. Generally is what we're talking about when we're talking about best buy, or how much more expensive it is to get one over the other. A reminder that more isn't always better, just because it might be cheaper. That doesn't mean that is the best thing for you. You might end up spending more money than you actually want to. So just a note that more doesn't have to be better. And it is, when we're talking about unit price, we're talking about dollars per pounds or dollars per liters or dollars per t-shirt, whatever. We're talking about dollars per something when we're talking about unit price. So then the second thing we talk about were incentive programs. And so this is what motivates an individual to buy something. And another reminder is that it's not always a better deal. So I know that at a local store, that often prices are listed as like, get 2 bags of chips for $7. But really, if you buy 1 bag of chips, it's $3.50. And buying 2 bags of chips is just getting the same deal but buying more. So if you don't want 2 bags of chips and you just want 1 bag of chips and you just buy 1, you're still getting the same deal. You don't have to buy 2 of them in order to get the deal. Sometimes you do have to buy them both, but then it has to be listed on the price tag. It says 2 for $7 but 1 for $4, and then you know that buying 2 means that you get them both for $3.50, whereas if you just buy 1, it's for $4, and you decide what is better for you. So you have to be careful with incentive programs, is because they aren't necessarily a deal. Buying the bigger amount isn't always going to be better. If you do a unit price check, just like often we think that if you buy more, you're getting a better deal because buying in bulk, as our society talks about that being a better deal, but it isn't always true. Sometimes if something's on sale, getting 2 of a smaller amount is better than buying 1 bigger one. So just something to be paying attention to, that you can't guarantee that something that says it's on sale is necessarily going to be the best deal for you. And then we talked about currency conversions, where that for Canadian converting to US dollars is that 1 Canadian dollar is about 79 cents US dollars. So, and then how there's different ways to convert that back and forth between Canadian to US dollars, and that can be a little bit tricky, and you just got to be really paying attention. Another good thing to do with that is that while you're doing your lessons, is to use an online currency converter to check your work as you go. So do the work. I want to see your work. I want to see all of your steps so that you're understanding what's going on. But then to check your work, then you can use an online currency converter to see, okay, I was supposed to convert whatever, $300 to something, and then you can go and you can check to see if that is actually, if you've done that properly. You just got to check to make sure that the rate that you're using is the same that the currency converter is using, which it might not be depending on if you're using the old IL books, or if you're going to be using the newer updated numbers. So that can be a little bit tricky. All right, so our success criteria. So number 1 is that you can calculate unit prices and decide upon the best buy. Remember, you always want to justify why it's the best buy. If you are disagreeing, if you're saying it's cheaper, therefore it's the best buy, great. Saying that I don't need this much means that it's better to buy this one because otherwise things are going to go to waste, is also totally valid. You just need to justify it. You need to explain why you're deciding something. Success criteria number 2 is that you can explain the benefits of various purchasing incentive programs, so being able to explain how they work. And success criteria number 3 is that you can calculate Canadian to US dollar conversions and back. Remember, show your steps so I can see what you're doing. All right, so if you have any questions or concerns, please contact me. This is why I'm here. This is my job, is to support you. So it's understandable that these things can be confusing, so please reach out if you need to. My number is 807-737-1488, and my extension is 2209. I'm still working on getting my voicemail set up and working for me, so if you leave a message for me and I don't get back to you, please call again or reach out to me in another way. You can also call the office toll-free at 1-800-667-3703. My email address is bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. That's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE. My Facebook is Wahsa and my YouTube is Wahsa, so you can find our lessons there if you'd like to watch the replay, slow things down, pause things, work on something, come back to it. I will upload our lesson most likely this afternoon. And my office hours are Monday through Friday, 9 till 4. So if you need some support, reach out to me during those hours. If those hours don't work for you, let me know and we can try to organize something outside of that if you need support. But you can't within those hours, and we can potentially schedule something that works for both of us. Thanks for joining me. I hope you have a lovely day, and miigwech.